Hi everybody. Oh, I've just realised. That's better. Hopefully you can hear me now. Hi everybody, welcome to a Thursday and your normal trip into my mind. So there's been a lot of questions this week around endometriosis and fertility, and I just wanted to jump on and just to give people reassurance this week that just because you have been diagnosed with endometriosis or polycystic ovaries or anything of that ilk does not mean that you can't get pregnant, even if you've been trying for a while and you're struggling. That doesn't necessarily mean A, that you're infertile, or even B, that it's your health condition that's making it difficult. Now, yes, sure, for some people, endometriosis will impact their fertility. It will make things that little bit harder, but it doesn't necessarily follow that just because you have endometriosis and you are struggling to get pregnant naturally does not mean that it's worst case scenario time. So what does it mean? Well, that varies from person to person. Like I say, in some instances, it might mean that your fertility is impacted and you may need a little bit of extra help to get pregnant. So, in those circumstances, speak to professionals, speak to people who can give you professional, qualified advice in terms of your chances to get pregnant. Now, they can be two types of people. You can see either or you can see both. We have Western doctors. We have people who specialise in IVF, who specialise in fertility, who specialise in pregnancy, and they can give you help, support, advice, and treatments like IVF and other things to help. My advice here is to pick a consultant or a specialist who you trust. Well, actually, to be fair, it's the same for both. Pick a consultant or a specialist who you trust, and don't necessarily just go with the first person you speak to. If somebody's talking to you, even if you know them and like them and trust them, if they're speaking to you and they're giving you advice or information that you don't necessarily believe, or that you don't want to believe, because it's sometimes you think that you don't want to believe it, but actually it's your gut instinct telling you that something isn't quite right with what they're saying. Go and speak to other people. Don't just think because you've had that one person telling you one thing that that's gospel, because if there's one thing we know in the endometriosis world, it's that people have very different opinions, professional opinions, on what this disease does, on what this illness impacts on, and how you can overcome it. So don't necessarily, because you may have been given a consultant, because you may have even found a consultant that you like, don't necessarily just assume that what that person is telling you is gospel. At the end of the day, it is just their opinion. Now, there are tests that you can do to test your fertility. You can test things like egg count. You can test different hormone levels, and they all will be a good indication of your fertility level. And again, unless it's absolutely black and white, that will not tell a definitive answer, because at the end of the day, you only need one egg, you only need one situation or series of situations to happen in your favour for you to become pregnant. And I see and hear so many stories, both from people I know, my clients, and just people online who talk about their fertility journey, how they were told at a young age that they wouldn't be able to have children, and how that all turned around in later life. So don't give up hope. There's also people like me, endometriosis specialists out there who can support you, and there's also natural doctors, natural therapists who can help with fertility as well. And I will say exactly what I say about endometriosis in general. Again, find a therapist who resonates with you and who speaks your truth, who gets what you're saying. And also make sure, if you're going to a fertility specialist, make sure that fertility specialist understands endometriosis and the complexities of endometriosis, because the stuff that we go through can be quite different to people without endometriosis who are also going through difficulties when they're trying to conceive. So it could even be that you have two people that you're talking to. You have an endometriosis person and you have a fertility person, and they talk to each other and they help you. Don't be afraid to have a little team around you, because again, exactly the same with endometriosis. There's so many components that come into conceiving a baby. Some of that's nutritional based, it's what you put into your body, not just in terms of food, but in terms of the toxins. All the stuff I talk about in terms of triggers for endometriosis. Toxins in food, toxins in pesticides that go on food, toxins in the shower gels, the perfumes and things that we use. So there's stuff around that, there's stuff around exercise, there's stuff around hydration. It's a full-on holistic, and I don't like that word, I do think it's overused and misused a lot, but there's a full-on holistic approach to pregnancy and to conceiving, especially when you've got endometriosis. One of the worst things for conception is stress. And I think people underestimate this because they don't understand necessarily how the body functions. When you're stressed, when your body is in fight or flight, when you're faced with a stressful situation, historically, and if you've joined my webinars before, you will have heard me talk about the fight or flight mechanism, that stress response that we get that is designed to keep us safe. It's designed so when we see woolly mammoths that we either fight it, we're fighting for our lives, or we run for our lives, we flight. We still have that response, we still have that stress response built into us. And although we don't see woolly mammoths, we still have the stresses of today's life, which is very, very different, but the stress response is still there. If you are constantly stressed, one of the things that, or not necessarily constantly stressed as well, I should say, but sometimes it can be if you just have periods of stress consistently through your life as well. So you may go for some months without feeling stressed, but then it returns. One of the key responses that our bodies have, and I'll be going into this in a lot more detail in one of my webinars coming up, when I'm actually going to talk about fertility in particular. But one of the key things that our body does when we're stressed is to take attention away from all of the processes that it doesn't deem to be essential. And one of those processes that the body doesn't deem to be essential in terms of fighting or flighting is the reproductive system. There's other ones as well, but the one that's pertinent to this discussion is the reproductive system. So if you're having a lot of stress in your day-to-day life, that can be work stress, it can be relationship stress, it can be house stress, it can be the stress of trying to conceive itself, because for some people it is a really, really stressful thing, then you are inadvertently taking energy from the reproductive system, because that's the body's natural, or one of the body's natural stress responses. So if you're stressing about it, if you're fearful of it, if you're upset about it, then it's not helping, and that's a really difficult pill to swallow. It's almost like a never-ending circle. The more stressed you get, the worse your systems get. The more stressed you get, the worse your systems get. The more stressed you get, the worse. So break that cycle. That's my first tip to you. Do not worry about it. Try not to be upset. Try not to hold too much faith in what you're being told if you're being told that you can't have children. Don't hold too much faith in that. Take it on board. Recognise that it might be difficult for you, but then seek further answers. Speak to different people, speak to different consultants, understand your cycle, because it might just be, some people have very, very different cycles. Your ovulation time is could be very, very different to somebody else's. You might not ovulate on day 13 or 14 or 15 or whatever. You might ovulate on day 6. So understand your cycle and speak to somebody who can help. Like I said, there's myself, there's fertility experts, or a combination of both. But try and find different people who can help, and try not to stress. So many people have conceived after being told that they couldn't conceive. And again, the reasons for that aren't necessarily known, but there's certainly some things that we can do to improve your chances, and hope that you are one of those people who can defy the doctors that tell you that you can't conceive. So I hope that's helpful for a Thursday. If you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the group. Like I say, now there's anonymous posting on there, so you can put questions in the group. Thank you for watching, for those of you who have watched. I shall advertise the fertility monthly clinic that's coming up. I should have checked before I came on, I always do this. I think it might even be August's clinic. It's either August or September's clinic that's coming up. So that's going to be one of my monthly webinars, the 2-hour webinars. There's going to be one on fertility coming up soon. So I hope if you're interested in this topic that you join me. If you have any questions, pop them in the group or feel free to message me separately. Have a lovely Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the weekend, whatever you're doing. For all the football fans out there, I don't know why I'm saying this because I'm sick of hearing about it, but yeah, enjoy Sunday. Take care, guys.